Okay, welcome everybody. It's another Wednesday night class. Last week we began the Michtav Me'Elio, or the Israel Dessler, and we started off his first piece about happiness, about the definition of happiness. We're really in the middle of that piece, so we're going to continue with that tonight. What we learned and what we understood last week was that in order to have some sort of fulfillment and some sort of happiness in this world, we do need a sense of drive and ambition. Now, a person who drives in their ambitions are towards financial wealth or other types of enjoyment can often be left wanting more and not satisfied with what they have. And a person who strives towards spirituality, so then they become what's called Ezehu Usher, who is the wealthy one, Hasomeach B'chalko, one who is happy with their lot. So he's going to talk, we're going to get back to that at the end. He's going to talk about a concept that the Sfarim write about, schar mitzvah in this world, reward for positive deeds in this world. So do we get reward for positive things that we do? We perform a kindness for somebody, or we go to a class, or we go to shul, whatever it might be, anything that we do that's a positive thing, do we get reward this world? And the answer is, it's a Gemara. The Gemara tells us, schar mitzvah b'hai amaleka. There is no reward for this in this world for commandments that we fulfill. The commandments that we fulfill, the reward is going to be for the next world. So now the Rav Dessler is going to take a deep dive into what exactly that means about reward, what is the concept of reward, and also what we have in this world. And a few of the things we'll talk about include talking about what we say in Shema, that Hashem will provide for us the rain and the land, the crops will grow, and that seems to be a reward. So what are we talking about exactly? And let's just jump right in, and we'll put it all together. So the first thing we have to understand is a statement that we learn in Pirkei Avos. It was really a couple of weeks ago. This past Shabbos, we learned the 5th chapter. There's a custom between Pesach and Shavuos to learn all 6 chapters of Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers. And last week was 5. This coming will be number 6, and then we'll have Shavuos. So 2 weeks ago, number 4, the Mishnah is Yafeh Sha'a Achas Shel Koras Ruach. One moment of pleasure. We use the word Koras Ruach, we'll translate as pleasure for now. In the next world, in Olam Haba, one moment of pleasure in the next world is greater than all life in this world. And what does that mean exactly? How do we quantify that, and how do we kind of wrap our heads around it? So Rav Dessler says that he heard from his teacher, his Rebbe, who was also his father-in-law, Rav Simcha Zissel Brody, and he said that, imagine like this. Imagine if you could take all the moments of your life that you can reflect on that were pleasant. All those moments, all those times where you had a wonderful interaction with somebody, where you had nachas from your children, whatever it is, all the positive interactions that we've had in our life, all the good moments, all the good times, and we can consolidate that into one moment. Imagine consolidating all those feelings into one moment. It'd be a very powerful feeling. He says, but that's not enough. Now take not just your own life experiences and all those positive times consolidated, but now your friends and your family members, take all of their lifetime experiences, positive ones, consolidate all of those together into one moment with yours. And that's the next moment that we're going to try and think of that moment. Okay, imagine like that. That's an overwhelming moment of just joy and elation and happiness that a person could feel. Unbelievable. Now extend that to the people of our city. Imagine every person in this city, all of their enjoyment, all of their pleasures, all of their feelings of, wow, that was fantastic, that was amazing, I'm so happy I did this, whatever, all those times in their lives, consolidate everybody in the city, put them all together into one moment, and then put everybody in the country and everybody in this entire world, all of those feelings into one moment. Can you imagine what that sense of joy and elation must be for a person if we could consolidate all of that and have that feeling for a moment? It's almost beyond imagination. Right? So Rav Simcha Zissel, Rav Dessler tells us, says that's not even enough. Take not just our generation, take every single generation that from the beginning of time all the way till the end of time, and all of that joy, all of that pleasure, all of that enjoyment and happiness that gets consolidated into one moment, put all of that together, one moment in the next world is more pleasurable than that. That's profound to imagine that in the next world, our satisfaction, so to speak, and our joy being close to Hashem will be so far beyond any comprehensible imagination of joy and happiness in any moment. Imagine taking every single person to ever exist in the history of the world and in the future of the world and put all of their joy into one consolidated moment. That one moment corresponding to the next world will still not be as good. It will be even greater. That's what it means, is that Yafeh Shah Achas, one moment in the next world, is more pleasurable than all life, all existence, all happy moments in this world. That's how he starts off. But he says the word that the Mishnah says, or the words that the Mishnah says, is not Sha'ah, one Sha'ah shel Simcha, one moment of happiness. It says Koras Ruach. Koras Ruach, hard to translate exactly, but he gives an example. Imagine there's a king that's making a big feast, big party, and he's had all the food prepared for weeks and weeks and weeks. And you can imagine what this feast must look like on the inside, and all just what it smells like, and all the delicious flavors and foods that have been cooking. And a person walks by the palace. He's not invited to the party. It's not his party. It's not for him. And he walks by and he smells the food that's come, the smell from the palace. That moment of, oh wow, that smells great. That is Koras Ruach. So that, and it's almost like a side benefit. It's not the actual meal. It's not the actual party. It's not the actual food. It's just the smell that comes out of this amazing feast. That is what Yafeh Shah Achas Shel Koras Ruach. That's what Koras Ruach means. That moment, even just one moment of almost a side benefit of the next world, is greater than all the joys and pleasures of this world. And that's how powerful the next world is. And Rav Dessler tells us that what you see from here is that the simcha, the joy that a person has in this world, is not the joy that is the reward for the mitzvah. The mitzvah, the joy for any single mitzvah, the smallest commandment, whatever the smallest thing is, right? I don't know. It's not up to us to decide big commandments, little commandments, right? That's God's the mathematician on that one, not us. But imagine we get somebody who fasts on Yom Kippur. That's a big one, right? It's an important one. And don't murder and don't steal. Those are big ones, right? And you'd imagine it doing a kindness for somebody. So, that's a nice thing to do. And maybe it's a nice thing to start an organization to help people. Okay, and it's a small thing to, just pass somebody a cup of water when they look like they're thirsty. It's a small thing. It's nice. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Maybe we could say, just for a second, that's not the biggest commandment in the world. That's not the biggest mitzvah that a person could possibly fulfill. And even that moment of passing the water to somebody else, you see that they're thirsty, they need a drink, and you hand them something, the reward for that mitzvah is greater than all of that we described.
Rabbi,
yeah, please. Go ahead.
I want to say this out loud, and it's very disrespectful. But why is the reward for the mitzvah anything different than doing the mitzvah? Why does there need to be a secondary gain that we think of?
It's an excellent question. It's an excellent question.
There's a few Mishnahs that actually say that. I can't remember.
Yeah. So that's right. The Mishnah does say that one should not serve his master, meaning we should not serve God for the sake of reward, rather even without the sake of reward. That's right. So that's excellent observation, excellent point. We're gonna unpack it and get to there as to what exactly.
Let me just give you the best example.
Yeah, please.
When you raise your children.
Yeah.
You do 1,000 wonderful things for them.
Yeah.
No one ever sees, knows.
That's right.
And in your heart, you say, well, I'm glad I did that.
Right.
Well, it's like giving, it's like altruism. There is no such thing as altruism.
Yeah, okay.
Because you yourself are getting a reward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or
there is some sort of pleasure from it or benefit.
So, yeah, I mean.
I don't think about the afterlife.
Yeah. So it's excellent. Yeah. So we'll get to that point of what exactly the reward is that we're talking about and what that concept is. Very good. Excellent. So, but we right now understanding that there's some sort of reward in the next world, and there is no reward for mitzvahs in this world. So any mitzvah, even the smallest mitzvah that in the next world, it's going to be unbelievable. But here, there's no reward for it. It's not here. That's not for us right now. Right now, we do because Hashem asked us to serve Him, and therefore we're going to serve Him. So that's the concept to start off. That's the concept of that there is no reward for commandments in this world. Says Rav Dessler, let's take it to the next step. Let's take it to the next level for a moment. And that way we can see exactly what we're trying to strive towards. And he says, the Mishnah also tells us, also in 2 weeks ago, Pirkei Avos, it says that mitzvah, goreres mitzvah, one positive deed, one positive commandment drags along with it another positive commandment. And then it ends off, sheschar mitzvah, mitzvah, because the reward of a mitzvah is the performance of a mitzvah. Okay, that's where we're going. So what Rav Dessler tells us is that it's true. In this world, there is no reward other than the mitzvah itself or even performing other mitzvahs. And therefore, when we talk about reward and any type of reward that we're talking about, it's really just to continuously perform more mitzvahs, to serve Hashem more and more. We mentioned, we'll get back, we're going to take a deeper look at that for a moment, but we mentioned last week that a person's drive and ambition should be to serve Hashem, because that is the most fulfilling thing that a person can have. So Hashem set up a system where the reward of every positive deed that we do is the ability to go ahead and do more positive deeds. That way, we can just continuously serve Hashem. And he says it like this, ask you a question. In Shema, he says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and Hashem is our master, he is one. And in it we say, V'haya im shama tishma'u, if we listen to Hashem's words, el mitzvosai, to the commandments, so I'll give you the rain at the right time, the crops will grow, and everything will be great. So, wait a minute. Rabbi Dessler, you just told us that schar, there is no reward for mitzvahs in this world. So what does it mean that the rains are going to come at the right time and everything's going to grow appropriately? That sounds like a reward. What's happening? Or why is the Torah talking about these things? And many times there are a lot of examples in the Torah that seem to say that we get some sort of physical, tangible reward. So he brings us a Rambam. The Rambam tells us an unbelievable insight. In the same way, a person who goes on a business trip and they work for let's say a big law firm. There's a client out in California. So they send you on a plane to California and you have to meet with the client and maybe you have to spend a couple of days there and close the deal and then you come back, right? So now, if you're an entry-level employee, so they'll book your flight for you, okay? They'll rent you a car and they'll keep you at a hotel and they'll give you a certain budget of what you can use for expenses to facilitate the deal. But it's probably going to be the compact car, it's probably going to be a Best Western, and it's probably going to be, you can take them out to an okay restaurant. But if you're one of the top lawyers and you've been working at the company and you've been there for long, long time, okay, so when you get there, they'll book their flight for you. Maybe you'll sit first class. Maybe when you get there, your rental car is going to be the Mercedes, and then there's going to be you get to take them out to the 5-star restaurant. You can spend $1,000 at the meal if you'd like with the client. Anything to get this guy's deal or whatever it is, right? They want you to close that deal. So now imagine a person goes, right? You work for the business, you're the top-notch lawyer, the top-notch whatever level employee that you are, and you go. And you say, wow, there's this nice car. You take it around for a spin. You drive for hours on end. What's the big, the long highway on the West Coast? I've never been there. I only heard about it. I don't know. It's supposed to be
Coast.
yeah. So the coast, yeah. It's supposed to be beautiful. I just yeah, whatever it is, exactly. So you take it up and down, and then you take the budget that you're for the rent for the food, and you treat yourself out to a nice meal. And you go to sleep in the nice fancy hotel, and you never want to meet the client. What's right? You totally forget about the nice vacation, right? What's your company going to do? What's the matter with you? Fell off the moon? You're going to pass back, right? So everything that we get, all those rewards that the Torah talks about, are really just business expenses. Hashem says, "I want you to perform more mitzvos. I want you to keep your eye on the ball and focus. Make sure that you keep your ambitions only for the sake of spirituality and connection to Hashem. And I'm going to help you do it. You know what I'm going to give you if you need it? I'll give you the rain at the right time. You'll have the produce, all the things to help put aside as many distractions as possible." Now, there's an obvious question. It doesn't always work that way, right? It's many great rabbis had very, very little money. Right? They were suffering financially. They didn't have easy things going on for them. It wasn't like, just paved the yellow brick road was paved for them and everything worked out. right? And not just big rabbis, people. People don't always just have good people who are trying their best and trying to connect to Hashem. Don't always have just an easy life. It's not, there's no like, it's not, that doesn't work that way. We can see that with our own eyes. So what is going on? What does that mean? So says Rav Dessler, is that because the purpose of, he said, well, let's take one step back, a more fundamental question. We see that people don't seem to live like this, but there's a more fundamental question. The more fundamental question is, how can we know, we saw last week, how can we say, Ezehu Ashir, who is the wealthy person, is Hasomeach Bechalko, somebody who's happy with his portion. Now, from a purely financial standpoint, right? From a purely financial. Oh boy, yeah. From a purely financial standpoint, if you think about it, right? So who's wealthy if he's happy with what he has? Okay, I have $1,000 in my bank account. I'm happy. Everything's great. Everything's fine. He's going to become wealthy. Not going to make any money. That takes out, by definition, all the drive and the ambition. That removes all the force that person needs in order to be able to go ahead and be successful. Right? It requires a certain amount of, I'm not happy exactly with what I have. I think I need more. And therefore, we have that drive and ambition. So how can, it's kind of contradictory. The statement is, who's wealthy? Someone who's happy with what they have. So says Rav Dessler, we're misunderstanding. The question is coming, this is my son, when he talks to us, he's writing the letters that he wrote, or different things that he said to his students. And he said, my son, my child, the foundation of such a question is coming from a mistake. The mistake is that we think that the purpose of the things we have in this world is to have those items. We're like the businessman who goes on our trip and totally never even meets with the client. We totally forget about the client. And therefore, we want to just benefit from the business expenses. So when we come to this world and I say, okay, well, I got this car, I got this house, I got these finances, everything should be great. Let me enjoy them. Let me use them to my enjoyment. And I'll be wealthy, in a numbers game, I'll be wealthy and I'll be able to use those things, but I'm totally missing the reason why Hashem gave it to me. Why is that there? It's not for those reasons. It's not for them themselves. It's not for the inherent purpose of them. Those are just ways to facilitate my growth. So now when a person, they're trying their best and things don't seem to work out, the things that person is lacking is not because Hashem is saying, well, I'm not going to give you stuff. You don't have so many business expenses, or you're going to have a hard time with stuff. Things are not going to go so smooth with you. It's because the lack of those things will help that person grow. Again, the goal is that we perform a mitzvah, we perform a positive thing. Hashem says, I'm going to give you more opportunities. The next opportunity might be, okay, now you don't have to go to work 3 days a week because you're so financially successful, and now you can sit and study Torah 3 days a week more than you would have normally. Great, that's one option. But there's myriad ways that Hashem presents ways for us to grow. And sometimes it's going to make it a little hard to get those finances. We hope that doesn't fall on anybody, but just speaking from a practical sense, people have troubles and things that are stressful to them. Now, if a person is sameach bechalko, if they're happy with what they have, meaning not with the tangible items, they're happy with the fact that Hashem is giving him an opportunity to connect to him, then he's the wealthiest of all. Because what did we say last week? Someone who is wealthy financially looks at himself and says, how am I going to make either more money? How do I worry about, I have to worry about the finances that I do have. I have to be concerned that something might happen to them. How do I protect it? What's my financial security, whatever it might be. But a person who is truly happy, meaning he says, what I have, Hashem has given to me because he is the all-merciful one and wants to make sure that I can serve him as much as I could, so then I'm happy with what I have. Not because I have a lack of ambition to be successful, but rather my ambition is driven specifically towards connecting to Hashem. So who's the wealthy person? Who has everything that they need? Who's being constantly given the reward? And we said, what was the reward? Is another mitzvah, another positive thing, another interaction, another way to connect. Who is the wealthy one? Who is consistently getting more opportunities? It's the one who is happy with what they have, meaning recognizes Hashem has given them everything they need to succeed and have a closer connection to Hashem. It's not a financial aspect. It's not a point of money. He brings a Gemara. The Gemara tells us Rebbe, the author of the Mishnayos, Rebbe Yehuda Hanasi, he was an extremely, extremely wealthy individual, very, very wealthy. As the expression that is used is Ochel Mishtei Shulchanos. He ate from two tables. I mean, he was a tremendous, tremendous Torah scholar, and he was a very, very successful, wealthy individual. Not everybody gets both. Some people are very financially successful. Some people are tremendous Torah scholars. Most people don't get both. That's the way it goes. But he was an Ochel Mishtei Shulchanos, and says the Gemara, says the Talmud, that is as Rebbe was leaving this world, he picked up his hands and he said, Hashem, you see my 10 fingers? I know that not a single one of my 10 fingers had any benefit from the pleasures of this world that you gave me. Not even my small pinky finger. Nothing had benefit from this world. He Ratzon should be your will, Hashem, that there should be, with my passing, it should be a calm and complete passing. There shouldn't be anything wrong. I shouldn't have made any mistakes. And that was what he said prior to his death. And Rav Dessler says that there's an implicit comment here. It's implicit in Rebbe's words that if he would have had some sort of benefit from this world, so then that means he would have passed this, he would have left this world incomplete or having done something wrong. What do you mean? God gave him everything. He recognized that Hashem gave him everything. He knew where it came from. So what exactly would he have been missing? So Rav Dessler says what Rebbe is telling us is that Rebbe understood. He understood that the purpose of him having these chairs, these tables, every single thing was only for the sake of connecting to Hashem, not for the sake of it itself. And if he would have used any of those items that he got for his own purpose, just because, I want to sit on a comfortable couch today, because he wanted to enjoy it for himself, so then it would be almost like stealing from Hashem in a sense, right? The Beis Hamikdash, the temple, they're vessels. Those vessels are used, they're beautiful, they're ornate, they're gold, they're silver, they're tables of marble, and all of those things had to be used to serve Hashem. If somebody took any of those items and used it to serve himself for his own personal gain, take it to drink a cup of water because he was thirsty, right? Any of those things, so then there's a transgression in the Torah called Me'ilah. He would have used something that was sanctified for Hashem for his own benefit, and that's negative. There's a negative commandment associated with that. Rebbe's telling us it's the same with this world. When we use things for our own benefit, we're missing the boat. We're the businessman who went on a vacation instead of meeting with the client. We totally failed on what we're supposed to be here for. We're supposed to be here to connect to Hashem. I'm supposed to use that plane, that Mercedes, whatever the example was, and all the fancy foods to improve the relationship with the client. I'm supposed to use all the tools that Hashem is giving me in this world, all the comforts of this world, for the sake of connecting with Hashem. So what comes out is, if we just put together last week and this week to see exactly what we have, is last week we talked about what true happiness is. True happiness is only found through spirituality and a certain drive and ambition towards spirituality. Drive and ambition to other things leaves us wanting more, and that's a never-ending cycle. It never finishes. We want to drive towards our connection to Hashem. We want to develop that connection in as much as we can. There's a concept of we don't get reward in this world. The reward that we get, rather, is not so much things and tangible items. Rather, it's some sort of connection and relationship with Hashem. And then what that connection is really what we saw is that the schar of one mitzvah is another mitzvah. It's another commandment. And all the things that we have in this world are really just another way for us to be able to get another connection, another interaction with Hashem, to come closer and to serve Hashem in a more meaningful way. If anybody has any questions, happy to take a pause here. And yes, I guess we can catch you up, Paul.
No,
Yes,
it's okay. I mean, well, you don't have the car drive back.
It's a little like the sort of the Yetzer Hara concept in the sense that, I mean, you kind of need that drive, like, I mean, there's, or sometimes the way I think of it is, it's a balance to be struck with. You obviously you can't indulge the Yetzer Hara, but on the other hand, that Yetzer Hara is also that properly focused and harnessed is your creative, motivating force.
Right. right? Every character trait that a person possesses really is, in a sense, a double-edged sword, right? Imagine you'd walk into a room and you see one person standing over the other. He's got this knife and he's cutting the guy open. Right? So, what are you, a crazy person? What's the matter with you? Murderer. Right? And then you take a step back out of the not such a zoomed in look, and you see the monitors and you see the people in their masks and you see the gloves and you realize that this is a doctor operating on somebody else, a surgeon. Right? It takes a certain level of almost cruelty to be able to pierce somebody for the purpose of helping them. Right? Somebody who has absolutely no cruelty whatsoever in them can't do that because it's too bothersome. There are people like that. They can't. It hurts them so much to interact in that way that they just can't become surgeons. They become other types of doctors, right? So that's right. Everything has to be weighed. The reason why character traits in Hebrew are called midos. There's a midah means a measurement. It's got to be in the right measure. So it's right. We have to. It's all in the right measure. We take this world and we use it for our own benefit. So then we're not using it in measure. You also can't ignore it. You can't live in this world without actually living in this world and be monks sitting on a mountain or something like that. That's not what we're here for. Hashem put us on this world to utilize this world. So we have to find that balance where we use the world as a way, as a means to serve Hashem. And that way we can connect to Hashem. Absolutely. Yeah. This is just as one last point that he makes is that this just to elaborate what Rav Dessler is saying, is that we find that Yitzchak Avinu, Yitzchak, when he wanted to impart the brachos that he had from Abraham, he wanted to impart that on the next generation. So at the time, he thought Esav was the right choice. And we know that Yaakov dressed up as Esav and he came and he took the brachos instead. Yaakov really earned them, or he purchased them really because he had bought the firstborn rights from Esav. But at the end of the day, what was the first thing that Yitzchak asked for when he told Esav, says, I want to give you the blessing that my father gave me? What did he ask for? He said, go make me some food. Go make me the meal. Make me the foods that I like. Go hunt for me. Go hunt for me something and make food for me. And then I'll give you the blessings. This is the most spiritual experience that either Yitzchak and Esav are going to experience. And I want a good meal, right? What's going on here? So what you see from there is that Yitzchak understood that this world, eating that good meal, would give him a certain sense of fulfillment in order to facilitate his ability to give over in a more meaningful way. A person that's tired, and a person that's you should be blessed. Right? It's not as meaningful when it's you should be blessed and everything should be great. Right? I know he's a Rosh Kollel today. He's a much older gentleman, and when he was young, his Rebbe took his class to Rav Aaron Kotler. Rav Aaron Kotler was the founder of the Lakewood Yeshiva. Lakewood in general didn't exist. There was nothing there as far as Judaism is concerned, and now it's literally the most thriving Jewish city on the globe, probably next to Israel. But at least in this country, it's unbelievable. And his Rebbe took them to Rav Aaron Kotler. So Rav Aaron was an older gentleman, an older man at the time. He was this Rosh Kollel was a kid, and he went to Rav Aaron Kotler. Rav Aaron Kotler, each boy came by, shook his hand. You should have blessing and success, blessing and bracha v'hatzlacha to each one. The class is walking out. This kid peels off, turns around, walks right back to Rav Aaron Kotler and says, no, I want a bigger blessing. And he said Rav Aaron Kotler took both hands, put them on his head, closed his eyes, and for like 5 minutes was just going on and on and on and on. And you can imagine this person's having to be a very bright man, very big Torah scholar, right? And like he just understood it's got to be. I want it to be just the standard blessing. I want the real one, and it's more meaningful. It carries more weight to it. And everything in this world is meant to give us the ability to serve Hashem in a more appropriate way. And most of us have a hard time serving, doing what we're supposed to when we're not feeling well. We have headaches and things like that. And it's hard. I can't get out of bed today. I really don't feel well, right? But some people, right? Shmuel Birnbaum was the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir Yeshiva in Brooklyn, and he was at the end he had cancer, and at the end of his many treatments with chemotherapy, And after being totally wiped and drained from all those treatments, the first thing out of his mouth would be, what did I miss in the yeshiva today? Let's talk about the learning. Let's learn more and more and more. I called I went to his funeral. I called Rabbi, my Rebbe. I said, I hear these stories about him. This is unbelievable. Like, I have a little headache and I'm out for a week. Right? And he's like, he's mamish, like he was really dying, and nothing stopped him. Nothing stopped him. It was amazing. It was really, really amazing. So everybody limit, and we have to, within our limit, finding the range of what we can tolerate and what we can't tolerate. We're not supposed to push ourselves beyond our limits, right? In that way of making ourselves suffer and not eat and things like that. That's not healthy for us. We need to do it from a healthy perspective. So you're right. Everything has to be within measure. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Mitzvah Shem, next week we will have, it's the day before Erev Shavuos, so we should have a class. I don't see why not. And it's going to be talking about the concept of mercy, Hashem's mercy. We'll see you then. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.